to prank the girl I liked in the most extreme way I could. This was back in 2016 when those killer clown videos were going around, and my friends decided this was the perfect method. We got the scariest looking clown costume, then completed it with a plastic machete that looked totally real. I threw on the Pennywise mask and headed out. Samantha was alone at the bus stop, and I started mentally preparing to forever traumatize the girl I liked. But then suddenly, a man I'd never seen walked up to her. He sat beside her, and when she moved away, he moved with her. Soon, he was grabbing her hand, and I could tell the situation wasn't good. I looked in his back pocket and saw a knife, and knew I had to act. I emerged from the bushes and walked over in my killer clown costume, dragging the tip of my fake machete along the ground. The man saw me first, and his eyes went wide. He instantly removed his hands from her thighs and stood up and ran away. Samantha exhaled in relief, but when she turned around, she screamed in fear. I thought about continuing the prank, but decided enough was enough and took off my mask. When she saw it was me, her jaw dropped. I told her I was going to prank her, and what happened was just a happy accident. So she took my fake sword and smacked my head with it. I sat with her until her bus came. "Dad, can you please buy me the costume?" My son begged me for the 10th time that week. "I need it, Dad. I can't live without it." I didn't know what to say. I knew that if I said no, he would just keep begging me. And if I said yes, he would just ask me for money for something else. And that's when I had an idea. I grabbed a piece of paper and came up with a way for him to earn money through chores. Each chore was worth a certain amount of money. If he took out the trash, he'd get $2. Doing the dishes was worth $3. When I was done writing, I presented the piece of paper to Wyatt, and he shook my hand. "Yes, I will follow this and earn money. I'm going to do so many chores that I will earn enough money to buy the Invisible Woman costume in 4 days. I'd do anything for that costume, Dad. Anything." I wish I knew the real meaning behind why he wanted the costume so badly. And on Monday, he followed the chore list perfectly. The kitchen was so polished I could see my reflection on the floor. As I admired his work, I heard him whispering to himself, "It's gonna be worth it when I get that costume. It's gonna be so worth it." On Tuesday, the dog yard was completely tidied for the first time in months. When I went to congratulate him, he was hunched over his laptop and slammed it shut the second he heard my footsteps. "Just researching the costume, Dad." By Wednesday, he was organizing the garage without being asked. I could have sworn I was Parent of the Year, but on Friday, I walked in the door and moldy dishes were piled in the sink again. The house was a complete mess, and I knew he'd completely given up on the chore system. I went to find Wyatt to find out why, and he was in his room playing his video game. "What happened to doing the chores?" He didn't look up from the screen. "Nah, I ain't doing Owlet." My eyes started twitching with stress because now it felt like we were going backwards. "What do you mean?" He pulled up his notebook and showed me the math. "According to the chore system that you came up with, I already did enough chores to have enough money to buy the costume." I stood there with my mouth open in shock. He was right, but I still didn't understand why he'd worked so hard for a stupid video game costume. Until that night when I opened Wyatt's laptop to make sure the payment actually went through. That's when I saw the search history. How to make the Invisible Woman's video game costume actually turn invisible to see what's underneath. Suddenly, everything made sense. My neighbor chainsawed my treehouse while we were out, so I listed his house on Zillow for $1. We came home Sunday to a pile of wood where my treehouse used to be, and the fence cut open where Doyle had come through. Mr. Doyle was on his porch holding the chainsaw and grinning. My dad walked up to the porch. "You destroyed my son's treehouse." Doyle shrugged. "Tell your kid to stay off my fence next time." He went inside. Through the front window, I watched his wife look up from the couch and smile at him. "Knew you'd handle it." That night, I sat at my laptop, pulled photos off Doyle's old Facebook, and listed his house on Zillow for $1 with an open house Saturday at 9. By midnight, the listing had 11,000 views. Friday night, a realtor pulled into Doyle's driveway and knocked, and when Doyle answered in his bathrobe, she smiled at him.
You've been a Christian since birth, yet you've never read through the entire Bible? If that makes you even a little embarrassed,
And knocked, and when Doyle answered in his bathrobe, she smiled at him. Hi, his own house, listed for $1 with an open house the next morning. Doyle ripped the phone out of her hand, scrolled through it, and slammed the door so hard, a window cracked. By Saturday sunrise, cars were lining the street, and by 9 there were over 100 people on his lawn. Families with kids, a guy carrying cash in a grocery bag, a college kid yelling, "I'm pre-approved," at nobody in particular. Doyle was on his porch screaming, "My house is not for sale," while strangers walked through his garden taking photos. He grabbed the chainsaw and yanked the cord, but nothing happened. He yanked again, and the engine stayed dead while the crowd kept walking past him like he wasn't there. His wife stepped outside in her robe and asked what was happening, so someone in the crowd handed her a phone with the listing on it. She read it twice, then she looked at Doyle. "You put our house up for $1? Doyle opened his mouth and nothing came out. She held the phone up. "These are your photos and descriptions. I can't believe you would do this." Then she walked back inside and slammed the door behind her. Behind Doyle, a bidding war erupted on the lawn. and a man in a suit pushed through the crowd waving a single-dollar bill in the air shouting, "I have the asking price," while 6 people tackled him. From my bedroom window, I watched Doyle alone on his porch with no chainsaw and no wife. The dollar bill landed at his feet. I walked outside to find my car covered in red paint and the word cheater keyed into the hood. Now I wasn't even in a relationship, so I had no idea who would do this. I went to ask my neighbors if I could use their camera to see who did this, but then I saw his car was also covered in red paint, the word cheater keyed on the hood. I knocked on his door, and when he saw what happened, he also told me it couldn't have been his wife. We walked together to the house nearby and saw another car with red paint and cheater on the hood. So we recruited the third guy, who also had no idea, and we kept walking. But then we found the fourth car just like ours, except this time the owner of it was sitting on the curb crying. He asked why we were here, and when we showed him our cars, he freaked out and immediately started apologizing. He explained that last night his wife found out about his affair, so she got drunk and destroyed his car as revenge. However, she drank too much and forgot that she ruined the car, so she went out and found a new car, and thinking it was his, she destroyed it. But then she forgot again, and repeated this 2 more times. A teacher took one look at my volcano, screamed, and told me I was getting arrested. The science fair was finally here, and I wanted to win first place, so I built a volcano. Baking soda, vinegar, red food coloring, the works. Poster taped to the back of the volcano in giant block letters that said, "Science Fair Project, Volcano, Mr. Reyes's class." I labeled the bottles too, baking soda and vinegar, so I'd know what I was mixing and wouldn't mess it up. I was carrying it down the hallway to the gym when Mrs. Caldwell took one look at the volcano and the bottles and screamed that I was going to get arrested for this. She took me to Principal Landon's office and sat me down. He had my volcano in the middle of his desk and was examining it from every angle, but he didn't bother looking at the poster taped to the back of the volcano. "Explain this," Principal Landon said. I told him, "It's a volcano for the science fair. I've been working on it for weeks. I'm trying to win first place." He pointed at the vinegar bottle. "And this? It's vinegar, and you were going to pour it into that," he said, pointing at the volcano. "Yeah, that's how the volcano erupts." Mrs. Caldwell leaned in. "He was going to set off a bomb in the middle of the gym," she said. "There were going to be 600 kids in there. It's not a bomb, it's a volcano. Foam is just going to come out of the top when I mixed the vinegar and baking soda. I picked up the bottle and turned it around. The word vinegar was written on it in black marker. It's literally labeled. Just because you wrote vinegar doesn't mean it is vinegar," Mrs. Caldwell said. I sat there trying to figure out how every adult in this room was looking at baking soda and a bottle of vinegar and seeing a bomb. "Just call Mr. Reyes, he's my science teacher," I said. Principal Landon picked up his phone and called Mr. Reyes. Mr. Reyes walked in 2 minutes later, looked at the desk, looked at the volcano, looked at the poster, and laughed. "You two know it's the science fair today, right?" He pulled out his phone and showed us pictures of
With Walmart Summer Style, you can leave quite an impression.
pictures of students at the gym, all with their science projects. A kid with a solar oven, a kid with a model rocket, a kid grinning behind a potato with 2 wires stuck in it. He looked at Mrs. Caldwell. "Use your brain for a second." He labeled the bottles. He labeled the volcano. He has a poster that says volcano. And you saw all of that and thought he was going to blow up the school with baking soda. Mrs. Caldwell stared at the floor. Mr. Reyes picked up my volcano and told me, "We're done here. Let's go." But by the time we got to the gym, the science fair was over. I never got to present, so a kid won with a potato battery. Next science fair, I built a model of Mrs. Caldwell's brain and turned in an empty box. Mr. Reyes gave me first place. At 3 a.m., I walked up